Hi there, I'm Christine Bennett and welcome to My Crafty Life. Today I'd like to show you how you can cut tissue paper for use in all your crafts. It's surprisingly easy and simple to do, even though the paper looks a little intimidating. It's so lightweight and easily bent, but trust me, you can get some fabulous results for your crafts like I have with this card for spring wishes. Stay tuned! One way you can cut a piece of tissue paper is using a craft punch. Flip the punch over, take a scrap piece of paper and your tissue paper, put them together, and slide them inside the punch. And press. This is a great way to reuse old paper and get some lovely results. This method doesn't always work. I tried it with different punches and perhaps it depends on the shape, but sometimes the edges would be a little ragged. Still, better than what I could cut by hand. Another way of cutting tissue paper would be with a shape cutter. Here's one, I'm not even sure if it's made anymore, by Fiskars. You could buy the big orange stencils and cut around this. You can also use it freehand. This is a shape cutter oval that Creative Memories also made a few years ago. And that's what I'm going to use for this example. Just flip the piece around to get the blade. And what you would do is take a scrap piece of paper, just fold it in half, and place your tissue paper inside. And make sure the pieces of tissue paper are about the same size. You can also use origami paper for the outside. Depends how many shapes that you're cutting and what you're trying to cut. Just giving you the idea. I take the knob and just slice around in the track. Taking care not to leave the track. I think EK Success also made a shape cutter as well a few years back. It's hard to stay on top of all the trendy stuff in the craft world. So here's, unlike the paper punch, I can make multiple shapes at the same time, all perfectly cut. And you can experiment to see how many layers you can get through. I wouldn't do more than 3 or 4. Things might get a little raggedy after that. So there, that's method 2. For this last method, I'm going to pull out the big gun, my Big Shot. Fabulous tool to have in your craft room, well worth the cost. Again, I'm going to take a scrap piece of paper and make a little sandwich for my tissue paper. Place it inside. I must feel like a magician doing this. So I've got my little tissue paper sandwich. I've got a Sizzix die, flower petals and centered. I'm going to place it over one of the flowers, like so. And roll it right on through. Let's see what happened. Ta-da! Again, I wouldn't go more than 3 or 4 layers of tissue paper. You'll have to experiment and see what works for you. It looks like we've got some lovely, perfectly cut tissue paper flowers. They are sticking to the scrap paper a bit, but wow, look at those results. Like, cool. I was so thrilled when I discovered this. You know, tissue paper is almost like watercolors. You can combine them and get different colors, and oh, they're just so bright and colorful, and it seemed like a shame not to be able to use them in some fashion. Now that you've learned how to cut out tissue paper shapes, the next step is to learn how to adhere them to your project. What I found worked really well for my paper crafts was to use my Xyron Creative Station. You can get different cartridges for your Creative Station, and this includes an adhesive cartridge. Now don't run the shape through the cartridge, it'll be a total disaster. I figured that one out for you already. Instead, what I did was run the cardstock backwards through the machine so that the front of the card was sticky, and then I placed my shapes down. You can also use glue. White glue, decoupage glue, even a glue stick. The key here is to apply the glue to the surface and not the shape. And when you use liquid glue, be sure to use just a small amount. Too much glue will wet the paper and cause it to rip and tear. You can also squirt out a blob of glue on a scrap piece of paper and then apply it with a paintbrush too. Here I have some blobs of white glue and decoupage glue. I'm just going to take a paintbrush and just spread it in the area. I'm going to take my flower and put it smooth side up. Then run the brayer over it. You can see how beautifully that adheres. And if it lifts up, and again it depends on your project, you can just very gently take a little bit more glue and just touch it. Just a little touch. And smooth it down. Oops. These little pieces are sure hard to hold. Okay. Same with the decoupage glue. Just a little bit of glue. And you can overlap your shapes, which I'm doing by accident here. Happy little accident. And roll it down. I'll have to fix that later. Now the glue works best with small pieces of tissue paper. With large pieces, you'll find that one area of the glue may dry out faster, especially if it's a glue stick. And glue stick isn't my favorite method of gluing things down. I find that some of them just don't adhere as well as they could. They also dry out and get weird. But this seems to be working well. And there you have it. You've learned something new today, so I hope that you can use this technique in your cards and crafts going forward. Take care. Bye.